Anybody needs a beer, come get a beer, because we're about to make it happen.
The internet said that, and guess what? The internet didn't lie tonight. It's like that Wikipedia. Wikipedia is
Alrighty, fourth wall. You guys ready to get robbing the people? Oh, you better be ready for your host, the one and only Rob Moore!
Fantastic. What's up, everybody?
what's going on, motherfucker?
Yeah, motherfuckers! How we doing in North Hollywood at the motherfucking fourth wall, everybody? Woo! It sounds like there's 100 people in here, but there's 7. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's fucking dope. Stop checking my math back there. I saw that. It's close. Ain't no need to check math tonight. The results are in, everybody. The results are in. They are what they are. We're going to get to those in just a second. Jesus fucking Christ, it has been a night. It has been an absolute roller coaster up and down. I started my night flipping through the channels right around the time the polls closed. And I came across ABC. ABC had Nate Silver from 538 sitting on their panel of 137 people. They had it was massive, you gotta see it. They're sitting in a coliseum with 180,000 different panelists, and at the end of this panel is Nate Silver with his big ass eyes flipping over all these papers like, and they've given a whole corner section of the screen to 538's prediction. I don't know if you remember 538. They're the one that called the election for Hillary Clinton at like 90% on the day of the election. So their record's pristine. So we brought them back in to see what they thought might go down. Nate Silver's tossing out his numbers. So at the top of it, right before the first polls close, a number pops up. It says, is that me?
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
Travis, I can't be hearing myself while I'm dealing with this. You know how crazy I'm already fucking going tonight? I can't be hearing myself talk and tell my own jokes. Anyway, so Nate Silver's at the end. They got the thing running on the side. At the top of the night, right before the polls close, they got a number comes out, says 14 out of 15 are the odds that the Democrats take the House back. 14 out of 15. First of all, what does that fucking mean? 14 out of that, like, we don't measure politics on 15s. Like, 15 fucking what? Like, I don't even know what that means. But either way, you're saying like 14, 15, like you're saying that strong of a majority. So I'm thinking 538's calling it again. We're fucked. There's no way they think we're that sure. So it's got to change, right? The polls close. 10 minutes later, they're like, I don't know, maybe 70% chance, 3 out of 4, something like that. It plummets, right? Another 30 minutes go by. They're like, Republicans are taking the House. We don't fucking know. It's hard to say. Another 20 minutes go by. The other polls close. It just starts reading across the bottom like, who's to fucking say? Who are we? We don't know, you know? It's like we're just trying to figure shit out like you. They gave us a whole lower third. So it's going up and down, and I'm thinking, like, first of all, why is this a thing? Why do we need to have a constant moment-by-moment guess about information we're going to get in an hour? You know what I mean? Like, why do we know? I don't know. I think, like, maybe 30%. I don't know, 40%. I don't know, 50%. I don't know. Wait 30 minutes and let's find out the fuck together. It's like, right? It's like watching a movie with your grandmother. She's like, what do you think's going to happen? I'm like, bitch, we're going to find out in like 20 minutes. Stay tuned. That's what they just should have ticked across the bottom. Stay tuned, motherfucker. Just like keep tuned. So Nate Silver's out there confusing the shit out of us. I'm thinking, what's the purpose of this whole thing? And then immediately it cuts to commercial, and it's like, do you have anxiety? Do you? Are you worried about that? Talk to your doctor about pills, baby. Get the fucking pills. That's, you know, that's all set up. Those things are tied together. You know, you got to make that connection. We don't have all the information yet. We do have a lot of the information. It looks like the Republicans have done well in the Senate. Democrats have done well in the House. One of the things that I find really fucking great, no matter how things shake out, is the first openly gay governor has been elected to the state of Colorado. Yeah, hell yeah, that's pretty fucking cool. First openly gay governor. And think, if he was more honest with himself, it could have gone to you, Mike Pence. It could have, you know, like you had that chance and you blew it. I mean, you probably blew it, but you blew it. You know what I'm saying? You messed it up. Yeah, it's tough in the Senate. It was a tough night in the Senate. Pretty much anything the Democrats set out to do in the Senate didn't fucking go the way that they wanted it to go. Liberal hearts are breaking all over the country. For Beto O'Rourke in Texas, ran a hell of a race. He won a hell of a race. I mean, 48% for the Senate in Texas hasn't happened in a really long time. That's fucking impressive. It is. It's fucking impressive. And he didn't do it by compromising and playing as a centrist. He did it by being a bold progressive in fucking Texas. I'm from Texas. I could tell you that's a risky ass bet. I started just behaving as a liberal, and they were like, "You got to get the fuck out. You got to go. You can't behave like that here." I was like, "I'm not sure how I feel about being straight," and they're like, "We know how we feel about you leaving." So. That's how they do it in Texas. So human swamp monster Ted Cruz is going to slime trail his way back to the Senate. And yeah, he is. It's a sad day. It is sad. But, you know, it's good because Beto, he gets to skateboard back to El Paso and get back to doing his shit, you know. He's get to focus on his family, sorting through all those unsolicited nudes in his DMs. I know that shit's in there for sure. You know, and focusing on running for president in 2020, which might even happen. You know what I'm saying? It could happen. Nate Silver's got him at 95%. He's going to win the 2020 election, so we feel safe about that, all right? You guys ready to get going with this fucking panel tonight? We have got two wonderful guests, and to bring them up, I'm going to throw to my wonderful co-host and Uber producer, Travis Clyburn. Travis.
Oh, my God. Thank you so much, Rob. All right, you guys. I'm going to play a little fucking... There it is. There's our funky copyright music.
Hey.
All right, guys, your first panelist. He worked for Fox and Friends as a head writer for 8 years, guys. Please welcome Kyle Chrise.
Yeah.
All right. All right, guys, and then your second panelist, one of my favorite people, the only guy I ever talked to on the YouTube, the Facebook comments. Please welcome Michael Regilio.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you. Fourth wall. Wonderful to be here.
Fuck yeah, I'm so excited to have you guys here. I normally go for some diversity in the panel, and tonight I was like, nah.
Two dudes that kind of look the same.
I was like, I want two variations on Garth. That's my plan.
You
I just
son
want...
of a bitch. Think you could get away with that shit?
I'm actually biracial. I'm part Anglo and part Saxon. So that's...
So you're bringing different stuff to the table. That's good.
Yeah.
I will say this, the word just came. Scott Walker, gone down!
Yeah, fuck yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Scott, don't worry, buddy. Tomorrow you can look for a new job. After all, you got the right to work.
Hey,
hello, ugliest man in America. I'm sorry, that was wrong.
No, it's good. I don't think I'm going to have to talk
by the way,
tonight.
Ted Cruz, it was a hard, long campaign. I heard he's going to take the day off tomorrow and just sun himself on a rock. So... piece of shit. And the Debs did take the House, which means they have subpoena power, which means right now Kellyanne is being ordered to eat Trump's tax returns. So...
Well, she's used to paper. Her and her boss have that in common.
Yeah.
That's part of their regular diet. Kyle?
Yeah. How did 4 million people vote for Ted Cruz tonight? What?
Yeah.
Is that did 4 million? I can't get 10,000 YouTube fans. Like
Right.
4 million?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy to me. I have to say, what really fucked with me is that as I was watching the polling, and this was pretty much across all channels and mediums, Beto was ahead all fucking night.
Yeah.
Like in the whole 3-hour window when we were like, oh, whoa, he's like 3, 4, 5, 6 points ahead. It was like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, parts of Dallas started to come in, and it was just like Houston, sections of the, you know, I'm from Austin originally. I was born in Dallas. I grew up in Austin. I will say this, and I want to announce this. I can't project it because it's so small of a race that there's not live updating on it. But the last info I saw was super fucking promising. The state house race for my home district was a competition. The incumbent Republican left and wasn't running for re-election, so it was between a young Democrat and a Republican, and the young Democrat was like one of my best friends in high school. So one of my best friends in high school, I think, with around 52 to 53% of the vote last time I checked, won our home fucking district to represent us in the State House. He's a former teacher, master's in education. His whole thing is about getting Texas back on track as far as education is concerned, which is a huge problem there. For a state with so much money, they're preposterously low on the education list.
Sounds like Rob's getting a federal job.
Can I point out that you did miss this obvious one, though, that the governor, the first openly gay governor, is from the first state to legalize recreational weed.
Right.
Related?
Yeah,
I
that
think
can't be
so.
a coincidence. Those things have to be correlated.
People chilled the fuck out.
Right?
Thank you.
And
Exactly
unofficially legalized meth. I don't know if you've been to Colorado lately. No?
Unofficially. Okay. I like the idea. I feel like that's going to be part of Trump's new agenda now that he's lost the Congress. It's going to be unofficially legalizing things. He's going to be like, it's totally legal, not totally officially legal, but mostly totally illegal, legally legal.
You're an official citizen. You're unofficial. You're quasi.
So let's talk about this. I normally, I will, and you guys don't know this because you haven't been on the show before, but normally the guests on this show, the day before we do the show, will get a group text from me where I tell them all the stuff we're going to talk about. And you guys did not get that because I was like...
No such text.
Because I was like, I feel like they're going to be able to talk about whatever the fuck happened. So that was it was a trust in your competence. That was part of it. But it was also... I felt it was nearly impossible to plan on what the fuck to talk about because I didn't know what was going to happen. So now that we did, I'm kind of flying by my pants here, but I have a few things I've been thinking about all night that I thought would be great for us to discuss. One of them is the massive, shocking upset in Florida. And when I say shocking upset, it went in both directions, right? It started as an automatic red state. You know, Trump won the state, not by like a massive margin, but pretty successfully. And then we have two really important races in Florida that we were watching over the season, right? We're watching the governor's race between Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis, and we're watching the Senate race between Bill Nelson and Rick Scott. Rick Scott, the former governor. Who...
And Skeletor look-alike.
Yeah, he is a... I gotta say,
and also,
man.
he, the medical company that he was the CEO from, guilty of worst medical fraud in American history.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Rick
great
Scott.
Great guy.
Accomplished.
And it's crazy because he got a big bounce in the numbers after the hurricane happened because when you're a governor of a state and you just, you know, don't totally botch a crisis like that, it bodes pretty well. Which, I want to give credit. It can't be an easy thing to deal with. But then again, it's like if you're in Florida and your state is not prepped for hurricanes, like, you know what I mean? If a hurricane hits Alabama, it's different. They don't get up in there very often. You know what the fuck I'm talking about? Like, it's like every now and then the governor's gonna be like, oh shit, where's our hurricane stuff? You know, but like Florida should like have that shit ready a month before every year.
Yeah, and they should not have a climate change denier as their governor.
Exactly right. And so the idea that this climate change denier is given all this credit for handling a hurricane well is weird.
As red tide takes over the beaches.
But over the and that's a big problem, and that's a huge problem in Florida.
Is that a sponsor? Tide? You guys congrats.
We have a lot of sponsors. We're going to get to those later. Don't you worry.
Is that a Batman villain? I don't know.
Red Tide?
Yeah, Red Tide. Oh, Red Mask. The different guy. Never mind. Keep going.
We're going to go down a comic book spiral. We'll never get there. So here's my my big point I want to throw to you guys on Florida. basically the same thing that happened in the 2016 election of all these sleeping Trump voters that didn't show up in polls. They call them shy Trumpists. That's what a thing I heard, which is like people, they don't tell their fucking husbands, their wives, their kids, they don't tell anyone, and then they show up to the polls and vote Trump. And apparently, as we saw in 2016 and we saw again today, Florida has a massive, maybe the most number of these Trump voters who are ashamed of being Trump voters, but yet they are, because Andrew Gillum and Bill Nelson, the Democrats in those two races, have been crushing the polls for a red state over the last month. I mean, sometimes double-digit leads. Not as much Bill Nelson, but definitely Andrew Gillum.
Well, he was 5 points up going in, 7 on some of the polls. I don't know if he was double-digit, was he?
I thought I saw one at one point. Maybe I'm mistaken. Point is, a strong lead for a Democrat like him.
For sure.
And he got clobbered tonight early.
Yeah.
We were still, what's crazy is we didn't call the Bill Nelson loss until way after the Andrew Gillum loss, and we thought that Bill Nelson might win because of all the enthusiasm that Andrew Gillum was bringing to the polls. So I guess my question is, am I right in feeling like Florida's worse even than we thought it was?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I guess that... Come on. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is the white folks in Florida just didn't want to monkey this thing up. And
right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And that's not even dog whistle. That's dog bullhorn. Give me a fucking break. It's
and for those who aren't familiar with
racism works in Florida in 2018, and that's disgusting.
That's a statement that was made by Ron DeSantis, his opponent, early on in the contest. That he's been called out for constantly. It's hilarious. It's really shocking because I watched the debates. I watched the debates for between Ron DeSantis and Andrew Gillum, and it was a blowout. Ron DeSantis looked like an idiot. I mean, his ads are like comically in favor of Trump. Like, I'm not saying it's, that being in favor of Trump's not going to work for you, but like the little, the ad that like went viral of he's like building a little wall with his kid. Yeah. He's reading Art of the Deal to his baby at night.
You're fired.
Yeah, it's like supposed to be this cute little, not really, but I mean, you get it. And it's like, the fact that it's so tongue-in-cheek is tough for me to take, and then to see such a great candidate like Andrew Gillum, who was again, like I said, running in a red state, not compromising, progressive, not
Medicare for all.
Absolutely, he stood for those things. Why is that funny?
So what did we learn? We learned
healthcare for everybody.
We learned that we are who we thought we were. Florida is still bleeding red. Indiana, still red. Ohio, we are who we thought we were.
Okay, so
well,
I want to ask.
If I could just interject for half a second, I absolutely reject the idea of a red state in 2018. They are orange states. It is the party of Trump, and that is just reality.
Sure, yeah, I understand your point on that.
I mean, there really is no Republican Party anymore.
Right.
There is the cult of Trump, and that is all there is, and Florida was proof of that.
Yeah, absolutely, and everyone who is not willing to sign up is left to fall in between the cracks. And okay, so here's the thing that I'll go to first, and I'll go to Kyle. You formerly worked on Fox and Friends, the head writer, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Your Honor.
And you can testify to the fact that
I thought my band was going to sign a record deal. Okay, like. Lots of people worked. It's like working at the Death Star, okay? Not everyone is some contracted killer, all right?
Right, yeah. Someone's got to put in the plumbing and shit.
Well, I mean, I tore up some plumbing at Fox.
That I don't doubt for 1 second. So what do you think, as someone who was there before, and I'm sure you continue to see how much of a straight deadline that show is to the president, how do you think they're going to play things in the next couple of days? How do you think that they're going to tell tonight's story?
I was already watching tonight. They're definitely playing up the big wins in the Senate, and they're emphasizing that Trump can now push through all the judicial nominees he wants. He can push through any of his cabinet nominees. I mean, he can shake it up and put his cronies in even more so. So they're definitely playing it up as a big win. So the Democrats won the House. Like, I don't know who's in the House. Like, fuck. This dude's got a tie on. He might be in the house. I don't know, you know? Like.
Yeah, it is a very large group, and there's it's tough because we spend these nights, especially on a midterm like this, which, I mean, first of all, we should be happy that this many people turned out for a midterm. That's kind of a good thing. The fact that this many people are participating in an off year, it's going to be record numbers. That's a thing to be happy about one way or another. But I think that one of the things that is a mistake, and you just made a great point, you don't know who's in the House. I mean, just because someone is elected under a party and we put them under this number of, oh, this party has this many seats and this party has this many seats, that doesn't account for people being, first of all, fucking human beings that don't always vote along their party lines in general, but especially when you get into the House and you have so many more votes at stake. You know, look at all the attention that was on Jeff Flake and Susan Collins and Joe Manchin and these moderate conservatives and Democrats that in this particular administration they're considered the moderates because they're the swing votes. And so my point being, like, if they, just because someone is under that title, they got that D next to their name, that's not a guarantee that they're going to swing for you when the time comes. So, like, doing all this math of, like, oh, he's got one more, it's like, yeah, but where does that, is that one more Marsha Blackburn in Tennessee, who is like a diehard, crazy, fanatical Trumpist, you know, it talks about carrying a pistol in her purse and all that, you know, NRA shit. Not everyone who's got an R is that person, and not everyone who's got the D next to their name is Nancy Pelosi. Do you guys think that she should be part of the leadership going forward now that the Democrats have the House?
Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, parliamentary procedures are a big deal. I mean, you have to know how to negotiate these things. She is the most qualified person right now. I'm sorry. She's not a very good progressive, but right now, what we need to do is we have to, I mean, with the subpoena power and the legislation, I mean, we cannot pass anything as Democrats in the next 2 years. What we can do is obstruct, obstruct, obstruct. And she knows how to do that. Yeah, that's really the only option. That's the name of the game. And she knows how to do that. If I could just interject for half a quick second, though.
You're talking.
Say that people are not... You're right. Who the hell am I interrupting? Hey, shut up, Regilio. No one's talking to you.
You interject, buddy.
Yeah,
you do it.
Well,
Get in there.
If I could just
tear it up.
I meant redirect for half a second.
He'll understand
and say that this actually was a blue wave. The Senate was never in play. But what was in play was that these districts that were 10 plus points for Trump in 2016. We're closed down to 1 and 2 points in 2018. We are closing the gap in huge, huge ways. It was never an option to take the Senate, and we took the House, which is the best we could do. It's, I mean, people that thought otherwise
and a great number
were
of
really being
governorships.
Unrealistic.
Can we get an update, Travis, on the list of governorships that have shaked out tonight either way? That's one I kind of tracked early.
I've also got all the props pulled up here for California.
I would love to talk about that later. Yeah, okay, absolutely.
I'll pull up the governor list right now.
Yeah, let's get that.
Although I got to say, that's a little revisionist history, because, you know, if Democrats, if we won in Texas, Florida, in Arizona, people were expecting a blue flip in the Senate.
Yeah, there was more expected for sure, I think, in a few different areas, and there were some definitely expected losses. Like, if Heidi Heitkamp had won tonight, people would have been like, holy fucking shit, yeah. That's a blue wave. She voted against Kavanaugh in fucking one of the Dakotas and then won. What? Like, that would have been crazy. Yeah, that was doomed. She also
ran as a Republican light. That is always the
right, which is part of my point.
Progressives won tonight.
I don't know about that, man. I feel like a lot of what I saw that really pulled out there were definitely progressive wins. Don't get me wrong, yeah. And I consider myself one.
But I
saw a lot of moderate Democrats take those suburban districts as well, and
True.
I was seeing a lot. And okay, so that brings me to my next question, and this will be the last one before we get to the California props, because I do want to talk about those. I'd love to hear those shake out. I actually have no idea, so you can announce those in just 1 second. Last thing is, oh fuck, I just had it. All right, let's do that if you have it, because I fucking lost the thing I was gonna say.
To the props.
Alrighty, give me 1 second.
Props to the props.
I'm cutting to my camera because I so rarely get to do that because I'm always focused on you people.
He's one handsome motherfucker, isn't he? Travis Clyburn, everybody.
For whatever reason, maybe because we're here on the West Coast, but right now, a lot of them's not fully reporting. However, I will read off the ones that are...
Prop 10 was in trouble, from what I understood.
Prop 6, which is the repeal state gas tax.
666.
No on that one. That was the 12 cents a gallon gasoline tax passed last year would be repealed. Any future fuel tax increase would require voters' approval. So that was struck down 55.
And I believe the bigger thing at stake for that prop, as I did the research, was that we get the vote to yes was that we would get a 12-cent cut on gas, like immediately as soon as it passed.
Right.
But it would immediately halt something like a massive amount, like $5 million in road repair that bill had originally set up, and all those projects are still ongoing. And if that had gotten passed, which I'm so glad it didn't, I voted against that. If it had gotten passed, all those road projects would have just fucking stopped. So like all these...
Yeah, basically they had all the money already approved for all this stuff, and they would have just been like, nah.
Exactly, and the money's been spent, as I understand it, a fair amount. Like they've already started these projects, they'd have to stop them.
It was almost an idiotic bill in the sense that you can't just give the money back or stop a project halfway through. It would be fucking chaos. It would just be orange barrels and sadness wherever they...
What about props? Do you have anything on 1 and 2, which were, I think, the housing bills?
Prop 1 is 41% reporting, and that is at 52.5% for yes. That looks like it'll probably pass. Prop 2, mental illness housing bond, looks like it's crushing at 60% to 40%.
Yeah. They're
which is great.
They're both great housing initiatives, I believe.
Then we've got the Prop 4 children's hospital bond passed 58.2 to 41.8. So that's fucking outstanding.
All right,
people not voting? How does that not add up to 100? It would like people not voting?
Well,
I abstain from the hospital votes.
Let's see here. Prop 6 was the gas tax.
Can we ban the extra fee for credit cards at the gas pump? I'm putting that on the ballot.
Okay, this one's pretty crazy. This is Proposition 7, which is allow daylight savings change. And that got murdered, 61.3 to 38.7%, which that means I believe next time we vote, we'll be voting on a national level to make daylight savings time not exist anymore.
Fuck yeah! I'm all about that. Fuck daylight savings time.
Farmers can eat our nuts.
All right, so is that all we have for the local props? Of note that we have right now?
Let's see. Let me kind of just read through this list here. We do have a few more. We've got Proposition 8, regulate dialysis charges. That got murdered with a no at 61.9%, which is
that's good. That's a good thing.
Because they were trying to come in and basically do what like Pfizer and stuff like that does, which is fucking ruin everything. And now this one is incredible. This one is the best one. Prop 10, remove rent control limits.
Yes, of course.
We're trying to come in and take away families' ability to control, like, you know, how fucked up their rent can be.
Yeah, local rent control.
Murdered, 64.2 to
fuck yeah.
8%.
That's great.
That's worth an applause.
Yeah, absolutely. That's housing costs in LA. Anybody here live in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Fucking fantastic. That's what happens when you vote.
Any word on the Georgia gubernatorial race they're trying? Which was, it looked too close to, they're called.
Yeah, let's look at the governor's race in Georgia.
I mean, that is a perfect example of what the problem is, and when we talk about the red v blue, is that once you control the state houses, once you control the governorship in these states, you control the districting,
and you redraw
and you
the
also
lines.
Control the vote, and you get a guy like Kemp, and it really is Oh my God! You got to be kidding me! I heard it was
48.3. Yeah,
she's been trailing pretty viciously all night.
Named Ted got 0.9%, and this is pretty much the reason.
Ted, it doesn't even.
You third party.
Yeah, he was a libertarian, which
it wouldn't have helped. That wouldn't have been enough. All right, so let's talk about that then. I think this is the big thing. that unfortunately, I hate this, but this is going to start tomorrow morning, and we might as well start it right fucking now. So with the new situation that we're in, there's a lot of things that can shake out specifically in the next 3 or 4 months that are going to tell us a lot about where we're going and how things are going to develop for the latter half of this term. So we got to start talking about 2020 at some point. We got to start having that conversation about who we run and why. To your point of it was a great night for progressives, it was an okay night for progressives. It sounds like Stacey Abrams, Andrew Gillum, Ben Jealous, a number of awesome progressive candidates fucking ate shit, and I hate it because I was a big fan of all 3 of those names. A number of other really great candidates that were all over the place. And what, Chuckles?
Kat Augustin, the one and only from the podcast.
Oh, well, yeah, please, let's hear it.
All her comment says is man-spreading.
That's this guy. It's okay. It's okay. There are no pregnant ladies needing to sit on the stage.
Travis, can you turn off the comments? Turn up.
So as we talk about 2020, the easy question, not the easy question to answer, but the easy question to ask: do you go progressive? Do you go moderate? Don't leave the personality shit out of it. Obviously, we need a fucking fighter. If someone's not a serious badass on the microphone, they got no chance. That's aside, we can agree on that. Yeah. The question is, do you run a Bernie Sanders, theoretically? Or I didn't ask y'all fuckers, you ain't on the shit yet.
Yeah.
Do you run a Bernie Sanders, or do you run a more moderate centrist Democrat that thinks they can pull the swing states?
If you look at history, it does not behoove you to run a senator, actually. So like an Elizabeth Warren or a Bernie Sanders. Look, last 2 senators to win were JFK and Obama. So twice in 50 years. So
and magnetic candidates that people lost their fucking minds over for a generation. So that's like, if you got that going for you, and you're a senator, but there's nobody like that right now.
So that leaves, former administration officials, people like Joe Biden. That leaves governors, maybe someone like former AZ Richardson. I don't think it's necessarily emerged yet. I don't think we'll see people like Cory Booker or Elizabeth Warren being in the forefront, at least, once it whittles down. Maybe initially when there's 12 people or something. But I think when it comes down to brass tacks, we haven't seen those people emerge yet.
Mike?
Well, I mean, obviously I agree with that. But as far as progressives go, I think you do run a progressive. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of progressive issues actually score over 50% with Republican voters as well, including Medicare for all or a single payer plan of some sort. That these are winning issues that we have to embrace. I really think that the #1 issue has to be money out of politics. I think overturning Citizens United. I mean, I'm actually for publicly funded elections, which is a long way off.
No, I'm absolutely, yeah, and I'm 100% for that too. I feel like it's tough though, because while that is at the root of so much of why we have problems in politics and why matters that are agreed upon by the majority of Americans do not become law, it's true, but it's just not something people don't give a shit about, and it's hard to get them to give a shit about, and it's hard to convince them, look, all the stuff you care about will be massively easier to accomplish if we can have only grassroots candidates be involved, then they'll actually reflect the people. But like, dude, that's a
conservatives. That's how you get real conservatives to run.
But that's a lofty argument for regular people, man. They don't think money. They're like, yeah, money in politics. Yeah, the rich people run everything. Those people don't vote anyway. Much less are they going to vote and show up to overturn the thing that has convinced them that their vote doesn't matter.
Well, as far as your question of who to run in 2020, I have become just convinced of strategy voting in the last 2 years of my life, and as such, you can't run Bernie. I don't think he's a viable candidate. candidate. Because what happens is the right-wing media spends years ramping up getting ready for these elections, which is why Hillary was the worst choice imaginable.
No, I agree with
Fox
that.
News spent 10 years poisoning the well. There were no swing voters.
But you know what's
These people
crazy,
were
Mike?
convinced she was the devil.
It's crazy, though, because that was the argument that my very intelligent, well-informed Democratic friends who supported her made. When I was like, no, you don't understand. She's like the least popular candidate in history on this side. Like, you will not win with her. I was like, look at Bernie's, like, polling everywhere.
Yeah,
it's insane. Like, come on. And their argument was, yeah, because he's never ran a national election before. He's only ever had to win over like white rural voters, so he doesn't know what it's like to be tested at the national level. She's tested at the national level. So since she's been through all of it, when they come out and attack her in the general, she can survive it because it's all already out there. He is gonna, yeah, right? That worked the fuck out. And their argument was, oh, he is going to face that national crowd, and he's not going to be able to play ball, and I'm sure they'll find stuff that they didn't know was there, and he'll have to deal with that. Well, I mean, I think we saw how that shaked out. But the idea that, I think the idea that we can't run somebody who's already in the spotlight, I get you, but I also think you're right. We definitely can't.
Not in the spotlight, but who they've anticipated will be the candidate in 2020, and they've ramped up. Now they see Bernie,
like, yeah,
and they're ready for him. And
if anything, Elizabeth Warren's a great example of that. That's someone they're ready to tackle to the ground.
They're ready to go. And this is a total aside, but it's such a sad statement about life. I was at a party the other night. We were playing that game where somebody puts a phone on their head and it says a word, and they have to guess the word. And the word was Pocahontas, and everybody in unison screamed Elizabeth Warren. It was just
oh man. So we did have, by the way, tonight our first. This is actually a stupid thing I wrote for the monologue. I didn't say, but we had our first Native American elected to Congress tonight too, right? Yeah, there's two.
Yeah. And two Muslim women as well.
And one, if not both, the Native Americans are women.
I didn't see.
One, if not both.
Yeah.
Trump's got to be so pissed that he wasted Pocahontas on the white woman from Massachusetts, right? Like, he's got to be super bummed. He's going to be like, is there another one I can use? Like, don't tell him about Sacagawea, because he's immediately, there's no way, no, it's not a big concern, because there's no way he can say it, but I think he's going to be upset
squaw.
He burned it.
I think squaw will be in his dictionary very soon, right?
My hot tweet tonight was at Donald Trump, Elizabeth Warren is 100% reelected.
I like that. Yeah.
Two Native American women. Kansas Democrat Chrise Davids unseated the GOP incumbent.
Yeah. That was the one I'd heard about.
Deb, I'm going to mess up that last name. Holland? Sure. Wins New Mexico.
I am absolutely so confused on how that is spelled, that you ended up saying Holland but weren't sure.
H-A-L-A-N-D. Hotland? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Please,
no, I think you did a great
ladies and
job.
gentlemen, can we not forget the senator from Massachusetts is part Native American as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Enough to discuss.
Yeah.
And I'm part Melanesian, actually.
Oh, so I wanted to bring this up while I'm talking. A very important issue to Devontae's heart, because he asked me to look it up here. That it did pass. Let me check. See, 1 second. I do apologize. The Farm Animal Space Minimum Act.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Passed 60-40. So in other words, now there will be a minimum space requirement for cows and chickens and whatnot.
Fuck yeah, that's fantastic.
So now they can't shove them in tiny little cages anymore in the state of California. But I think it's fantastic.
But you know what's fucked up, Travis, is like the little rooms they keep them in, the cages are twice as big, but they have to have roommates now. Like, they have to, there's 2 of them in there.
And now my wife has to get another cat tree. All right, so thanks.
I was going to ask you about your wife and the cat tree thing, and I'm glad that just came out naturally. I didn't have to prompt it.
Well, we've always invested in the local cat tree market. Ever since I lived in New Jersey, we bought locally, and our cats get the finest.
Fancy feast?
Fancy Feast, yeah, a little bit. They're on a diet, so I'm not supposed to give them a ton of Fancy Feast.
Oh my God.
I've got this prescription dry food, which like just tastes like garbage. You can tell they're just like, what is up with this?
Holy shit. All right, let's...
I have 2 elderly cats who are on their last legs. We're back to Fancy Feast. Whatever you want, kids. This is it. Yeah.
Can I ask you guys, are any of your cats running for office? Don't even. All right, so let's take a quick. Is there any comments that we want to comment on real quick? Is any shout outs?
Other than the man spreading.
No one's watching.
Long-term fan of the podcast and the show, Mike Brennan tuned in, even though he's all the way on the East Coast, fucking 3 in the morning.
Hell yeah! Thank you, Mike Brennan.
Mike Brennan.
Great Coke dealer.
He says 2020 O'Rourke, so he's a big fan of bedtime.
I'm down with that, actually. I like that idea.
He says for sure he's definitely 1,000% not running, but people have said that before and then definitely been elected president, so we'll see what happens.
Does he have the infrastructure? You can't just, you know.
Someone says Biscuit Corwin, also listening on the fucking East Coast time zone, also 3 a.m.
Hell yeah.
Fan of the show. Andrew Cumio? How do you say it?
Cuomo.
Cuomo.
To be a viable in his opinion.
No.
East Coast governor, a New Yorker versus Trump? I
He's
could see
throwing
it.
out Andrew Cuomo as a
Viable candidate for the 2020.
as a 2020 presidential candidate.
Corporatist,
I'm gonna say there's no way in a million years I'd vote for him in the primary. No way in a million years.
I do apologize.
He did just trump Cynthia Nixon in the governor's primary. She came out on a lot of progressive issues, but I think one of the number one things that worked against her is that she was Cynthia Nixon, and I honestly think
If she was more of a Samantha, you know, it would have.
I like the idea that even Miranda didn't play her cards right when it came time. So you don't even know who you are, girl. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of. So I'll say the idea of having a more centrist Democrat run for president, as long as they're a grassroots, actually paid for by the people that they are meant to represent, and I get the sense that they're authentic, I don't mind if they're more centrist on policy. I would prefer a progressive candidate, but on top of that, I prefer someone who can beat Donald Trump. I have to say, I'm a big... I lean with some people who are, you know, still bummed about losing Al Franken. Like, that's a fucking huge loss. Like, that guy could have fucking maybe been the guy. Yeah.
Even Trump came out and said he gave up.
Yeah.
He gave up after nothing. He didn't even fight.
Yeah, Trump's like, he didn't even actually touch him. He didn't even actually do a honk honk, and he just quit. What the fuck is that?
I've done much worse. I've done much worse in the Oval Office.
President. Jesus Christ. Yeah, and that's the other thing that I think is a problem is Trump, and there have been more than one president or presidential candidate that has been a celebrity before in outside of politics. I mean, Ronald Reagan, famous actor, became a president that no one can fucking stop talking about. And it happens all the time, but one of the things that we've never really seen is a politician, specifically a president, that works like a comic. He works like a comedian. He does. He works like a comedian. He goes from rally to rally. He tries lines out. When they work, he keeps them. If they don't work, he immediately skips on to something else. Yeah, he's building a fucking.
No reaction. All right.
He's building an act on live television, which, first of all, is the first rule of comedy. You don't record the building of the act, you dumb motherfucker. But it's working. It's working.
And he sees how far he.
Working on material.
So I think my point being is I think that there has to be some element of that kind of, you know, reading the room and feeding off the people instead of feeding off the teleprompter from the person that we put forward. Like, it's gotta be someone who listens and builds the fucking stump speech as he does it.
I don't know. I think we go the exact opposite. We put up the most presidential, reserved, dignified person imaginable.
Hillary Clinton. Oh.
You know what? I mean, the fact of the matter is, I said she was the worst person to run, but she would have been a fine president. And I wasn't crazy for her centrist policies, but she was certainly...
guest of the show has just dropped two pretty great comments.
All right, let's hear it.
Apparently 40% of the people who voted would 100% kick a chicken. And apparently that is the case. 40% of California voters want to kick chicken. And then she also says, at this point, I just settled for a candidate that's younger than 70.
Oh.
I will give you that. That's a good one.
That's another thing.
Is so fucking old.
And I will say the youngest woman elected, the youngest person, but she's a woman elected to Congress in history was elected tonight, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a bold fucking progressive who unseated a very, very centrist, old school vanguard Democrat.
And the Fox folks are afraid of her. They're already running, they've been running smear campaign after smear campaign. They don't like it one bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she's a bartender and they're drinkers.
Well, she's a hot bartender and they're old, ugly, white drinkers. So there's definitely a contrast there of like, no, I know she'd fucking not give me another one and not let me grab her titties. So there's definitely some of that going on.
You never forget the bartender that cuts you off, no matter,
exactly
no matter
right.
how drunk, right?
Exactly right.
Well, so I'm going to use the panel real quick to help with my ignorance. There is a Measure B, establish a public bank in Los Angeles. Right now it is losing 60-40, with only 12% reporting for some reason. Could you guys shed some light on what the fuck that is?
It doesn't actually establish an LA bank, but it opens the opportunity for further study of a LA bank. LA, we're the biggest economy in outside of New York City. Why do we borrow money from everywhere else? So
right, absolutely, and most of the major basically one small argument you could make is that most of the major banks are not based in the state of California at all, much less in LA. So yeah, this idea that we're constantly doing millions of dollars of business with a bank that we're generating the economy for, it makes why send all our money to Charlotte to Bank of America as opposed to, but also it's a general conversation about the idea of a public bank, which is a conversation that's regularly had between the left and right.
A lot of power from just the Federal Reserve and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's a big conversation. Well, not the Federal Reserve. It eliminates power from the private banking institutions, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, those guys.
New York-based bank.
Yeah, and the South. I mean, the Bank of America is North Carolina, but yeah, basically it comes back to an age-old conversation of something that I've found myself defining myself as a Democrat or a liberal, whatever, because I agree with this, which is the idea that there are some industries that should not be run by the capitalist setup. Like the idea that capitalism works for all businesses across, like anything that deals with money should be capitalist is fucking ridiculous. And I used to think that, being from Texas, but now it's like, oh wait, maybe we shouldn't have a profit motive in healthcare. Maybe we shouldn't have a profit motive in prisons. And fairly, though it sounds ironic, when you're dealing with public money especially, why should we have a profit motive in banking? When it comes to public money especially, we're talking about LA, and the idea that we would invest our public money in a private bank does seem kind of counterintuitive to me.
Maybe I don't want to download for pay anymore. Scratch that from the record.
This is live.
I mean, you actually bring up one of the more interesting conversations that people are starting to have as the progressive movement gains steam right now, which is what some people are calling democratic socialism, some people are calling socialist democratic. And I mean, the definitions are so malleable and opaque right now that...
I like how you say that we really can't nail the subject down. We either think we put the second word first or the first word second.
No, but I mean, they actually have...
We're going to do one of those.
The fact of the matter is that socialism has a very hard definition.
Right.
And
Venezuela!
There's no.
But what about Venezuela, Michael? No socialism.
Venezuela was a totalitarian system based on a charismatic head of state who fucked everybody over.
Right.
Trump and.
May he freeze in peace.
But the fact of the matter is that there really isn't any real good examples of a socialistic economy.
Except ours.
I mean, but we
Like,
have
so many elements of our-
within.
right, exactly.
And it's but what people say when they say they're democratic socialist is what they mean is that they're a capitalist with a strong social safety net and
Right.
certain parts of the private sector that are buffered and protected by the government. And Fox News, Fox and Friends, and others have demonized it and want to play a game with words where it's got to be one thing or the other. This dictionary definition of socialism, which is
Right.
actually what nobody, and I was manspreading right there, we're stopping.
Don't take that.
And I think that's a very interesting conversation as to how we want to go with
Do you think
progressivism.
branding wise that so I remember 2 years ago when, like I said, I've said on the show 100 times or 3 times because that's how many shows we've done. I've said shut up. I was I've said before that I grew up libertarian because I was in Texas, a very like keep your hands off my stuff, let me handle it attitude. And as I got older, I was like, maybe we all need to throw in a little bit more and
Touch my
participate.
stuff, yeah.
Exactly, touch my stuff. It's gonna be fine. That's what my uncle said.
Libertarianism only works when we have jetpacks.
What?
Well, whenever you say to libertarians, who's going to build the roads? They go, jetpacks will take care of all of that.
I don't.
You don't
think
need
that's
roads.
what
Where
Gary
we're going, we
Johnson
don't need
ran
roads.
on, but
No, please. Libertarianism is just another word for retarded.
well, that's bold. That's bold. I'll say this. Here's a phrase that I do like. Libertarians were born on third base thinking they hit a triple.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that one, and that's exactly where I came from on it, which is like I was looking around going like, you should be able to take care of yourself as someone who never had to worry about being taken care of, didn't have to take care of anyone else, and was treated with a fair level of trust and understanding as I went everywhere because everyone in Texas were like, white man, you probably are all right. And they were wrong mostly, because I'm not, but you get that automatic assumption. That's another thing that happens in the South all the time. I was talking to Travis about this last week. When you're in the South, especially, in southern Ohio is definitely the South.
Pretty much.
When it's in northern Kentucky, right? That's what we say?
Yep.
So when you're there, other white people will just assume you have the same racial views as them and try to like get you in on their thing and be like, yeah, look at them. You're like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I'm not automatically on your side about this.
I'm from Boston.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
We
I
don't
mean,
have that.
the idea that there's no racism in Boston, I think, might be off base though, because they've got a little bit of.
Yeah, I might have been kidding.
Yeah.
That might have been a little.
Is this a fucking comedy show? All right.
There's a great question proposed by Chris Corwin here from Ohio.
What's up, Chris?
Do you guys think that there should be age limits on presidential candidates?
No.
I mean, there is on the low end. Do you mean on the high end?
On the high end. that's
Right,
what-
right.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like.
Yeah, no 12-year-olds.
So yes, on that. 35, I think, is good,
I
but
suppose that would be different if, like, you know, if it's 50 years from now and we can live to be 150.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm also against term limits, quite frankly.
you're against
Yeah, I'm
term
against-
limits?
Yeah.
Why?
I am. Because I just look at a guy like Bernie Sanders, like, oh, you have to go? Really? You have to go. That's it. You got to go. You're doing a great
Yeah,
job. You're fighting
but-
for the people. You've learned how to work the system, but now you got to go.
But
I just
yeah,
don't-
but that I feel like that's exception proves the rule, dude. There's so many other people that enter those positions that we eventually have to lose a Bernie Sanders so that we can get rid of some people who've been there too long. But I will say this, we don't have term limits in fucking Congress. So like the idea that if we're going to do it, we should fucking do it. It should be the policy across the board. You shouldn't be like Rick Perry and be able to be governor of Texas like 4 times. Like that's crazy. I think I'll agree with this. I'll say we should either go big or go home. If we have term limits, we should have term limits on Congress, governorships, state legislatures, fucking all of it.
Idle
And-
judges.
And yeah, yes,
Judges, I will give you.
absolutely.
Judges, I would actually, yeah.
And the notion that the Supreme Court is lifetime appointment, I'm not sure I feel about that. Like, and the reason
That
is,
should absolutely be changed.
why do you
Well,
think so,
I mean, I
Travis?
think-
The Supreme Court senators, I think there should be an age limit, mainly because it's like, I mean, a lot of the candidates I remember during Obama's administration, they were bringing in these Republicans that were in their mid-90s, like connected to oxygen masks and tubes, just to take their fucking finger and press a button for them. Like, some of these people were skeletons, and then they did disqualify them from being elected because they never run against anybody ever. They usually run unopposed.
That's a good point, but I also feel like at the same time, like someone like Bernie Sanders, especially on age limits, I'm not a fan of age limits because, like, I mean, yeah, you look at Trump and you start to hear the things he says, and you're like, dude, I think you might be going a little bit. Only
general physical fucking exam. If you can't walk.
Yeah, but what good is that?
Never mind.
What good is that? Because like Donald Trump turned in 2 fucking A+ health reports that can't be right. So like what? like we could do the exam, but if it doesn't hold up in court, you know what I mean? Like what?
235 my ass. All right, I weigh 235. No fucking way.
Yeah, his ass weighs 235, and the rest of him.
A good qualification might be, I don't know, like say if you're a businessman, maybe just like release your tax forms. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a big.
That might be a good way to qualify.
I actually have some crazy ideas.
That's got to be first on the subpoena list, right? That's like the first. I think Pelosi already said it.
Maxine Waters is your judiciary chairwoman now. So
yeah, that's true.
I think that one of the problems is that actually is this revolving door. Are we running low on time?
No, we got some more.
It's the direct street, the direct conveyor belt to the governor, or I mean, from governance to lobbyist, which is a huge problem. And I think one of the solutions, and this is a very unpopular opinion, is I think we need to pay senators more so that really talented business people or really talented intellects want to become involved in politics.
Man.
I really do.
Opposite.
Because right now, if you're making $1 million a year, it's a huge pay cut to become a senator or a representative.
Yeah, and that's true.
And
First
I think
of
we need
all,
to bring them in. The only way to make it pay off is to get that influence in Washington and then cash in as a lobbyist. And everybody does it. And you just look at, John Boehner is now a lobbyist for marijuana.
I know, it's
because you'll
crazy.
do it. Anyone will do anything. Eric Cantor, who has no background whatsoever in economics, is working.
Michael,
on
I don't
Wall
think the
Street.
solution to that problem is to pay them more for the job they're doing before, because then they'll just do fucking both. That's what I'm saying. I think that they'll do the job that pays really fucking well. The people who are greedy will work the hardest and cheat the hardest to get there. You should be motivated to be in office because of political service and public service, not because of money. Like, so if we only add more money and sweeten the pot to getting these jobs, we're only going to end up with richer, greedier people. And that, dude, my number one reason why I didn't like Hillary Clinton, all of the policy bullshit aside and different corruption stuff I thought might be going on but wasn't sure, my number one problem with her, she's fucking rich. She's been rich for a really long time. Really rich. For a really long time. Was she born rich? No. But she's been rich my whole life. So when she says, I'm going to take care of the poor people, there's a little part of me that's like, I don't know about that. I think you might, in theory, I do think that a lot of your policies will help the poor, and I do think you believe in them. But that deep down thing that you get me, and you're a candidate that really represents me, you don't.
I mean, FDR. I mean, he was considered a class traitor by the rich because he
right,
was born
yeah.
and raised a rich man.
Again, but exception proves the rule. That's not a super common thing, and I would much rather have people like fucking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, fucking bartenders end up in charge of things because they're regular working people. Like, here's the thing, and I'll boil this down to like how I deal with working in my own industry. I started in theater with the intention of always moving into television. And every job interview I've taken in television, they ask me the same question. What is your 5-year plan? What do you want to do in 10 years? They want me to tell them the job I want in a decade, which is a hard thing to do because I've never had these jobs they're expecting me to answer to. I don't know if I want to do those things. But here's the thing I do know. If I ever am going to be an executive producer of a major television program, I don't want to tell a single person on that show what to do without knowing what I'm asking of those people. And the people who are always in power and always have money and never have to struggle or work an extra shift or do that kind of grind that regular people do. The people who spend too long out of touch with that, they lose that connection to what it means to live that life. And I don't start to feel represented by those people. I don't want someone dictating what happens for the working class people who's not working class, right? Is that reasonable? Like and the fact that like Bernie Sanders aside, whether or not he runs or whatever, that model of like the guy who's like, I don't care about my hair, my fucking suit, and my car, I don't care, well, fuck that. Trying to change fucking healthcare here. Like he's not worried about that material shit the way that really wealthy people are. And so as soon as I see that and I see him driving a fucking 15-year-old car and he doesn't have to, I'm like, that's what, Fred?
He's got a lot of houses.
He has a lot of houses.
Yeah,
are you going to try to make the argument to me that Bernie Sanders has a lot of money?
He's got more houses than I do, man.
I bought his book. He's got a book deal. He's got a book. Is this a capitalist country? Yes or no? The guy has a book deal. He wrote a book. It sold 1 million copies. Did he not deserve the money that came from it?
He should have just had one big house.
So hold on a second. So this guy dedicates his life to working for people. He writes a book about working for people. It sells a lot of copies, and he buys a house, and that's suddenly a problem. Oh, Bernie Sanders, he's got money. He can't speak for us anymore. So just okay. So then you could go vote for monks living up in the.
It wasn't a super fair debate because one person had a camera and a microphone. But
the other person was rudely interjecting.
I absolutely understand the point that's being made, which is that
2, by the way, is a lot of houses.
First of all,
2. I've never heard anyone call the number 2 a lot before. 2.
2 is a lot of houses. I'll take 1. 2 is a lot of houses. 1 is good.
Okay, so the idea, first of all, that I made the point that one of the most working class progressive people who's ever run for president, and I still managed to find people in North Hollywood, California who are like, but he ain't good enough. It's like it's got to be so pristine.
Okay, so I take it you must shit on photographs of Donald Trump every day for the number of houses he has.
Sorry. No, but he doesn't pretend.
All right, hey, this isn't a.
He doesn't pretend he's poor.
Bernie pretends he's poor. He's pretending.
All right.
I heard Bernie has elite cable also, all the channels, Showtime and Cinemax.
He's got that black box.
He's got all the channels.
Right?
He's got the black box.
Paid for it.
Woo! Actually, if I'm not mistaken, he sent me an email like a week ago asking for my Netflix password, so I'm sure. I don't think he's stealing. Do we have any other comments before I wrap this shit up?
Let's see here. I don't think we have any comments, but I do want to read off. Let me see here. I believe we have enough reporting to announce all the props that have passed. I believe the establishing public bank in Los Angeles got just murdered, 60 to 40, unfortunately. Actually, that one's still low reporting. It's only 12%. I don't know what the fuck's going on there, but the rest of them are in. Housing assistance bonds passed, yes, 52, 47 million. Like I said, mental illness housing bond that passed. Taxes to fund homeless services passed 60-40, fantastic. Water and environment bonds passed 52.3 to 47.7. No. So.
No.
Gotcha.
Take that, water.
Yeah, suck it, water.
Fucking
Bitch ass water, motherfucker. All right.
To be wet.
All right.
I'd like to apologize.
Property tax-based transfer. I have no fucking idea what that is, but no. Allowed daylight savings time change. Yes. And then I read
Fuck the sun.
Rest. We're all good.
What about the Lakers? We have a Lakers score?
We don't, but I believe the incumbent is winning 62 for
The incumbent at the Laker game?
Yeah, that one.
I don't even know why that's funny to me. It's so stupid. Okay. All right. Do you guys have any closing remarks before we wrap this up? Keep it short, motherfuckers.
We're doomed.
You know what? I'm going to go with. I'm going to agree with him and say that when you look at the state of the world, particularly climate change, that everything we're talking about tonight is just rearranging the deck furniture on the Titanic.
Oh my goodness, that is fantastic. Yeah, right? That's pretty good.
But also follow me on Twitter.
Yeah.
If you got a minute.
Yeah, it's like, who gives a shit? None of us are, what matters? You know what I mean? You know what does matter is our social media following. At Kyle Chrise, Michael Regilio, Rob Mauricio.
I have 2 couches, by the way.
You fucking wealthy motherfucker. I hope a fucking I hope Nick Jordan comes to your house and fucking gets a knife and it's just like, this rich motherfucker. All right, let's close this out. I want to say, first of all, thank you so much to my guests, Kyle Chrise, Michael Regilio. Let's get a round of applause for them, please. Wonderful, and our wonderful live audience. We've had a lot of people tune in for this. Am I over here, Travis?
You are right now.
Fuck yeah, baby. Okay, so I want to say this, and hear me out on my last closing remarks on this show. I am so thankful that we were able to do this. I'm going to go ahead and say first, to the man, the myth, the legend, thank you so much for letting us do this. Joe Menente, you're the goddamn man. He's the owner of the Fourth Wall, he's the driver of the mobile mic, and he's the baddest motherfucking rock comic in North Hollywood. So if you get a chance to see him do some stand-up, do it. Come on out to the Fourth Wall sometime and try out some comedy, or keep trying it, I should say, to a lot of the people that I've seen lately. You just keep trying, baby. I believe in you.
Or stop.
Are these my closing remarks? I'm trying to talk here, God damn it. I really appreciate anyone who's tuned in for this show at all, whether it's been to come out to the live show or to watch it later on YouTube or Travis's Facebook. We really appreciate your viewership. We haven't decided yet how we're going to keep doing this. We think we want to keep doing it. This was a test run of 5 episodes that we wanted to just see what the temperature was like. We do get some people out from time to time, and we get a fair amount of engagement. I'm not talking shit, Trenton. You know I love you, baby. We get people out. We love to have people out for this. We think it's a fun thing. We will keep you updated on the developments on how this show is going to continue. And one way or another, we want to keep it going. So thank you for tuning in for that. As far as tonight goes, obviously there's a little bit of a reason for Democrats to be happy. There's a little bit of a reason for Republicans to be happy. In a weird way, it was a win-win for everybody, if we're talking about everything on a whole. And the number one thing that makes it a win-win, the number one thing that makes this election a success, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, is that the voter turnout was high as fuck. It's gonna break records, it's massive. People participated in this system. In a midterm election, you know, it took someone like Trump being in charge for us to get there. It is absolutely imperative that this momentum, that this discussion, that all the annoying I voted, go vote, 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 vote shit on Instagram and Facebook and TV and everywhere, it does not stop tonight. It continues tomorrow. It continues next week. We are never done with this shit. This shit never stops. And as far as robbing the people is concerned, we're not gonna stop talking about it. Thank you guys so much for fucking joining us.
Oh my God, guys, this has been robbing the people. There are not final episode. That's right, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.